Greetings of peace and good health to all of you. I am Dr. Roel A. Monsanto from the College of Hospitality and Tourism Management of the University of Cebu, Lapu-Lapu and Mandawi campus. Today, I am going to do a demonstration of online teaching for the subject Food and Beverage Services and Operations. Now, this subject has a laboratory component, so I hope I would be able to share with you what I have learned and probably new approaches or new insights about how to conduct online teaching, most especially for subjects with laboratory component. Thank you very much. All right. Good morning, my dear students. Thank you very much for waking up so early and attending this class. Today, we will be talking about the four main types of restaurant service. But before that, I would like to ask everyone to please bow down your heads for our opening prayer.
Our loving God, we bring your presence with us. We speak your compassion, your grace, your mercy, and we ask you to share your gift of peace. We acknowledge your power over all that will be spoken, thought, decided, and done throughout the day. Lord, when we are confused, guide us. When we are discouraged and losing hope, energize us. May the work that we do and the way we do it bring faith, joy, and a smile to all that we come in contact with today. Bless our family, our home, our nation. May truly care for the earth and the community of life as we try to promote your dream for justice and liberation. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
So we are going to start now. Again, thank you very much for waking up so early to attend my class. And today we will be talking about the four main types of restaurant service. Now, house rules. Kindly turn off your microphone. You can turn it on once I announce that you may do so, okay? In order to avoid unnecessary interactions or unnecessary noises, that's why I am asking you to turn off your microphone. I am also asking you to be please attentive and avoid unnecessary activities. You might be doing something else that I cannot see. So at this point, I am asking you to please give to me your full attention and don't do unnecessary things, okay? Next, you have to prepare a notepad, pen, and a paper because you will be taking down notes on top of what I have provided to you in our Google Classroom. So yes, I have already posted the materials in our Google Classroom, but there are information, there are things that I might be discussing or I might utter along the way that are not included in the handout, so or in the materials that I have posted. So you have to prepare a notepad, pen and paper. Pen and paper because we will be having an activity later on. Yes, you heard me right. We will be having an activity later on. Next, question and answer portion will follow right after my discussion. So don't worry, reserve your questions for later because there will be a part in our class wherein I will be allowing you to raise questions. All right? But if there is really a need to interact while the discussion is going on, just click the raise hand button and I will be allowing you to interact. You might have something that you would like to share in the class, so I am also open to that. All right. Finally, you have to enjoy. Okay? This platform will allow you to become strong and independent. Now, I know online classes may be new to you, but we have to embrace the new normal in the delivery of quality hospitality education. Okay, so this platform will also allow you to be strong and independent because you are on your own. Okay, that is now what you call adulthood. Now, in life, ladies and gentlemen, it's similar to that. Okay, you are on your own. All right, so those are our house rules in order to set order in my online classroom. Now, before I start my discussion about the four main types of restaurant service, I'd like to share with you a video entitled Gordon Ramsay, This is My Philosophy on Restaurants.
Restaurant Gordon Ramsay to me is so special because of its uniqueness. It runs on passion, adrenaline, and more importantly, creativity. Every time you step through those doors, you feel special. Every time you light up that stove in the kitchen, it feels unique. And every dish that flies off that hot plate, it's magical. Having spent the last 30 years mastering my craft, the experience I've gathered and the knowledge I have goes into every dish that gets created. But more importantly, run by a team that are equally talented, hungry, ambitious, and absolutely at the top of their game. The man running the kitchen behind Gordon Ramsay is Matt Abbey, one of the most talented, one of the most driven, and one of the most passionate chefs in Britain today. Having that young, tenacious, ambitious creativity on those plates today helps to keep Restaurant Gordon Ramsay at the top of its game. It's fronted by the most amazing maitre d', Jean-Claude, who eats, drinks, sleeps Restaurant Gordon Ramsay. There's no maitre d' anywhere in the world with that level of insight, memory and passion. Jean-Claude's service, in my mind, is the best in the world. The head sommelier, James Lloyd. James's palate as a top sommelier is as finessed as a young chef. His encyclopedia mind of the blend of the grape and the understanding of the dish that was matched brilliantly with that wine comes down to years and years of experience. Restaurant Gordon Ramsay over the last 20 years has helped to reinstate the importance of British cuisine. It's highlighted some of the best produce grown locally. I've always said from day one, the better the product, the little it needs doing to it. You never ever forget for decades about the flavour. That's the memory that you can never buy. For me, The secret of the next 20 years is to stay on top of the game. Never, ever take your foot off the gas. And remember, you're only as good as your last plate. Restaurant Gordon Ramsay to me is more than just a restaurant. It's my life.
All right. The video talks about why are we here in the first place? Why there are hospitality professionals. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand that the very essence of our course, the very essence of this program is crafting wonderful memories. You know, there are so many wonderful memories in our life that will be celebrated in a restaurant. When you celebrate something, when you achieve something, you go to a restaurant not just to eat, but to celebrate. When you get married, you will have hospitality professionals helping you, making the moment even more special. Soon, when you graduate in college, you will celebrate. And more often, these celebrations will happen or will take place in the restaurant. So that's why I want you to understand why we need to be careful and why we need to study service, restaurant service, okay? Because we are the master orchestrators of life's most wonderful memories. Remember that. When people come to the restaurant, they are expecting quality service because they are celebrating something, because they are happy with something, or because they are engaged in a business. So, us, hospitality professionals, we have to deliver utmost service in order to, to give life or to give color to the success that they are celebrating, to the new business ventures that they are into. We are there. Okay? So that's what Gordon Ramsay is trying to convey to all of us. Now, speaking of restaurant service, there are actually four main types. Okay? And that is what we are going to talk about this morning. Now, for our objectives, at the end of this session, you will be able to compare and contrast for the four main types of restaurant service. There are so many restaurants, there are so many types of restaurant service that are being used or being employed by different restaurants all over the world. But we will be talking about the four major types, okay? Because other types of restaurant service actually sprung from these four. So we will be focusing our attention to these four types of restaurant service. Okay, namely the American service, the Russian service, the English service, and of course, the French service. Next, identify the practical application of the four main types of restaurant service. Not all of them are used altogether or are employed altogether in a restaurant, okay? You have, as a future restaurateur, or as a future hospitality professional, you have to carefully consider what type of service are you going to employ when you operate a restaurant, because there are practical considerations of these four. So you have to assess well. That's why we are talking about this topic in this subject. Next, after this class, you would be able to illustrate the proper placement of tableware in Russian or American service. Now, why are we focusing on the two? Because English service and French service are actually inspired by the American service and the Russian service. By inspired, I mean the arrangement of the tableware in French service and in English service are pretty much the same with American service and Russian service. So that is why in the illustration part, I am focusing on the Russian and the American service because when you know how to set up a table for Russian service and for American service, you will know automatically how to set a table for English service and for French service. And then finally, demonstrate the proper table setup of the 4 types of restaurant service. Yes, I am asking you to demonstrate, and I will be sharing with you the instructions later on, right after my discussion. Okay? Everything is clear? Can I see a thumbs up if everything is clear in our objectives? There you go, very good. Now, let's start. First, we have American service. Now, why among the 4, this is the first one that I have to talk about, okay? Simply because, ladies and gentlemen, American service is the most popular among the 4. Here in the Philippines, well, not only in the Philippines, but practically everywhere in the world, American service is the most popular type of restaurant service being employed in restaurants. Why? Because American service is very simple, okay? On top of that, American service is also very economical when we talk about business because the ratio of wait staff to the number of tables is 1 wait staff is to probably around 3 or 4 tables. Okay, so you don't need much manpower if your restaurant is using the American service, unlike any other services. Okay, now let's go on with the technicality of the American service. In the American service, there are 2 variations: the European style and the American style. Okay, in Europe, if you are in Europe, which I know some of you will be working abroad in the future, and if you will work for a restaurant somewhere in Europe, the version of their American service is something like this. You serve in the right side and dish out in the right side. Okay? Right and right. You have to remember that. Serve in the right side of the guest, dish out as well in the right side. But when you go to America, which is where American service originated, obviously, the wait staff will serve the food in the left side. Okay? Left side is the service, right side is the dish out. Okay? Again, in Europe, when you serve, right, always remember, right, serve, right service, right dish out. But in America, it's right, it's left side when you serve the food, but when you dish out, it should be in the right side. Okay? Now, that is the technicality of the service in American service. American service, ladies and gentlemen, is also called the plated service. Why is it called the plated service? This is now the reason why I am telling you American service is really popular. Because in American service, the food is prepared in the kitchen. Plating, presentation, all of those are done in the kitchen. Basically, what you will see in the table are the tableware, of course, and the show plate. No other plates, only the show plate. You can see, of course, the cutlery. Cutlery, that means the spoon, the fork, the knives that you will be using. All right? Those are default setup. But you cannot see any other plates in there apart from the show plate or the underliner plate. And of course, on top of that will be the table napkin. And you have the glasses like this. Okay? Now remember, the way you set up tableware in American service and as with any other types of restaurant service, you have to consider what is stipulated in the menu. You will not set up something, or you will not set up a certain tableware if that is not necessarily needed or if it is not necessary. Okay? You have to take a look at the menu, and whatever is in the menu, then you have to set up using the correct cutlery or tableware. For example, your menu has five courses. You have appetizer, salad, soup, main dish, dessert. Let's say, for example. So you will set up. So let's talk about first appetizer. So for appetizer, since it is stipulated in the menu, then you have to and you have to think, what appetizer is this? For example, it's shrimp ceviche. Do I need to use a spoon, or do I need to use a fork for shrimp ceviche? Now the answer is yes, you need both, because shrimp ceviche is pretty much like kinilaw in Bisaya. So there is a sauce. That's why you need a spoon. And of course, you need a fork because it's made out of shrimp. The main ingredient is shrimp. So you need spoon and fork. So that would be the very first thing that you will set up. Now, since you need two, spoon and fork, your fork should be on the left side. Farthest left. Okay, farthest left side, that should be the fork for your appetizer. And since you need a spoon for your appetizer, then the farthest right side should also be the spoon for your appetizer. So you have now a cutlery for appetizer. What comes next? Appetizer. Say you have soup. Okay. After that, there's soup. What will you use in soup? Soup spoon, right? Will you use fork in your soup? I don't think so. Probably other soups may require you, especially if the featured item, by the way, featured item is what we call suba in Bisaya, especially if the featured item is in large chunks. But I don't think soups are designed for that. So you don't necessarily need fork. So you only need a soup spoon. Where should we place all spoons? Should be on the right side, right? No fork. So you will not set up something in the left side, only in the right side, okay? So you have to put soup spoon at the right side. So at the right side, you have two cutleries already. You have your spoon for the appetizer, and you have your soup spoon. To your left, you only have one, okay? Because you don't need fork in soup. So you have one, what do you call that? One fork, okay. Next, what comes after? Say, for example, salad. Okay, we are now in salad. In salad, will you use spoon? No, in general. Okay, no, in general. So you will only be needing fork. And there is a special type of fork for that. We call it the salad fork. Not all forks are created equal. Not all forks are the same. Not in the same manner, not all knives, not all spoons are the same, okay? They are created for a special purpose. You know that in your previous subjects. So you have your salad fork. So you place it at the at the left side. So there are now two cutleries for each side. Okay. Next, after salad, what is next? You have main dish. Generally, for main dish, you will use three cutleries. You have your spoon, you have your fork, and you have your knife. Okay? Depending on what type of main dish you are served with. For example, you are served with a beef steak, so you will have a steak knife. So you have three. Now, let's set them up. Let's put them accordingly. So your spoon should be placed right after your soup spoon. That will be your dinner spoon. And then after the dinner spoon, you have knife, okay? Your steak knife. To your left side is your dinner fork, okay? Next, we are done with the main dish. Now we are in the dessert. It's not dessert, huh? It's dessert. Dessert, you will not set up the cutlery either in the left side or in the right side. The tableware or the cutlery for dessert should be set up right at the top of the show plate or underliner plate. Dessert spoon should be facing left side, and the dessert fork should be facing right side, okay, as shown in the illustration. And then, of course, you have your glasses, okay? Each glass has a specific purpose, okay? Remember that. You have a water goblet, you have a white wine glass, and of course, we have red wine glass. So all glasses should be set up at the top of the right side. At the top of the cutlery or tablewares at the right side of the table. And then, of course, in the left side, right, top of at the top of the forks will be your bread plate and your bread and butter knife. And then beside that should be the salt and pepper dispenser. So this is how the American service or the table setup for American service looks like. Now, what makes it very popular? Let's go back. Why is this called plated service? Because again, the chef will arrange everything in the kitchen. The chef will do the plating, the garnishing, and all. The wait staff will get the order from the kitchen and will deliver it or will serve it to the guest's table. Remember the show plate or the underliner plate? That is where the wait staff will place the guest's order. For example, for appetizer, shrimp ceviche, the underliner plate will not be removed. The wait staff will just place the plate of ceviche on top of the underliner plate. And the sequence goes on. The wait staff will only remove the the show plate once the main dish is done, okay? Or once the guest is done eating the main dish or the main course. Now, talking about dishing out, ladies and gentlemen, when you dish out, for example, the guest is done eating his or her appetizer. So when you dish out together with the plate, the cutleries. So for shrimp ceviche, there are two cutleries, right, that you used. spoon, and fork. So when you dish out, when the guest is done eating the shrimp ceviche or the appetizer, you dish out the plate. Together with that will be um, the spoon and the fork used. Okay, and that will be the same. If the guest is done eating or done with the soup, you dish out the soup plate together with the soup spoon, and then the salad, so on and so forth. Okay, that is American service. Here in the Philippines, it's very common. Okay, plated service is very common, especially when you attend weddings or any social gatherings and you don't like a buffet, so the best option would be plated service. Okay? Plated service is also very good because you can control. You can control the number of guests. Especially here in the Philippines, we have a culture that when there is a wedding, when you invite 100, the attendees will be 250. So that's the challenge if you are not taking into consideration proper control. But in plated service, you can control. So this is the beauty of plated service. Okay? So that is plated service or the American service again. What I would like you to remember is that it is called plated service because from the kitchen, the chef will do the plating, the arrangement, the garnishing, and the wait staff will just deliver it to or will serve it to the guest's table. Okay. Any questions so far for American service? None. All right. Now let's proceed. By the way, where can we see or have you seen any restaurants here in Cebu that is employing the method of American service? You can turn on your microphone now. Can you see any, were you able to notice? Yes, sweet. What particular restaurant can you remember that is using American service here in Cebu?
American? Wala.
Bukad. Yakinik. Yakinik is buffet. What?
Buffet man na siya.
Wala pa ko, sir.
Hindi mo siya pwede.
Can you recall of a certain restaurant here in
Wala.
Cebu that is using American service? Actually, most of the restaurants, because in the restaurant, we have two menu options, okay?
Casa Verde.
Oh yes, Casa Verde. Very good. Casa Verde. Especially if the order is a la carte, right? A la carte meaning from the
But not necessarily sir na display gid ang entire cutleries nila.
Oh.
So the service is there pero the nag-differ gid.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Maybe sir na certain restaurant and nag-practice English service
No, ano
yet
yun?
nag-differ lang siya sa table.
Go ahead, Jess. So we have one, Casa Verde. What else?
View Wine and Dine restaurant sa Cebu Yacht Club.
Oh yeah, Cebu Yacht Club.
And also Sky Deck sa Pusok.
Yes. Yeah.
Serve it like
Deck.
yeah, I tried.
Number
Yeah.
2. Yes, they are also
Yeah.
employing the American service. Okay. In order for you to fully understand the sequence of service in American service, how does it work? I'd like to show you a video showing what American service is all about. So that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. That is what you called American service. Now let's proceed to the next type of restaurant service, which is the Russian service. Okay, Russian service. Now, unlike American service is pretty much straightforward and simple because it's plated service. But Russian service is opposite. Opposite. Why? Because Russian service is a very elaborate type of service. The focus is not only on serving the guest. The focus is also on the silverwares, the tableware being used in the setup. In this particular type of service, you can see extravagant and very elaborate cutlery, very elaborate tableware. Okay, why? Because this type of restaurant service actually originated from the royal Russian household. Okay, uh, during the time of the Tsars and the Tsarinas, and the ultimate goal of the Russian service is to impress the king. Okay, if you are the king, you only want the best in the world, even if you are just simply eating. Okay, so that was the primary purpose of Russian service, and it originated again in the Russian royal household, and it was adopted all throughout the world. There are many monarchies around the world that are also using this particular type of service. Okay. Now, as I have said, in Russian service, the table is set to shine and sparkle. Okay. In American service, again, it's straightforward. Whatever you need, it will be set up according to what is there in the menu. Okay. But there are still many tableware. In Russian service, there are also many tableware, but the focus is not just on the food. Okay. The focus is also on impressing people. Okay. This is very extravagant. Now, the main point of Russian service is that the table is all set and the weight. Okay, I am talking about the physical characteristics of Russian service. Okay, that's how it looks like. Now, in terms of service, Russian service is also very different as compared to the American service. Because in the Russian survey, if you can recall, American service, it's plated service, correct? The food is done and plated in the kitchen, and the wait staff will simply get that order and then serve it to the guest. In Russian service, this is different. Let's say, for example, part of the menu is the soup. Okay, the chefs will prepare the soup in the kitchen, obviously, and then they will place it in a huge container, a very very beautiful container, big container, soup container, mostly plated with gold or silver. Okay, and it's huge. Okay, now the chef will put the soup, okay, in that particular container. The wait staff now will go to the kitchen, get that huge container with the soup on it, okay, and go to the table, guest's table, and serve the guest individually, okay? Unlike American service, the chef will put the soup, okay, or will contain the soup in a soup bowl. He will do the portioning in the kitchen. The waitstaff will get it and then serve it to the guest. In the Russian service, no. You have to serve the person. So you get that huge bowl and then individually serve the guest. There may be other condiments together with that tray, or in that tray, apart from, of course, the huge bowl, there may be other condiments and other spices. You will also do the garnishing right in front of the guest. Okay, so say, for example, you will add chives. So you will serve now the soup right in front. Again, right in front of the guest. You will serve the soup and then do the garnishing in there and proceed with the next guest. Okay, that is Russian service. Now, the waitstaff again will bring the cooked food to the guest in a large container and serve the guest in proper portion in the left side. Okay. Service or serving of food in Russian service is done always in the left side. Okay. Now, Russian service is also very popular in cruise ships and, of course, banquets because it's quick. Okay, in banquets and in cruise ships, we are talking about thousands, hundreds or thousands of people all in one setting. So, Russian service is quicker as compared to other types of service. What about American service? Yeah, but you need at least, in American service, if you are serving hundreds or thousands of people in one setting, the ratio is about, say, 3 wait staff in one table. That's the ratio. Okay? Because the wait staff cannot carry it all. Okay? American service is good for table for 2, table for 4. But if we are talking about banquets already and cruise ships, American service is not really practical and not really economical. It should be Russian service. Why? Because let's say you will serve soup. You only need one wait staff to do that. Because right after the wait staff serves that particular guest, then he moves on to another. So that's why Russian service is pretty much practical and economical when we talk about banquets or cruise ships or huge gathering. Normally, when I was still connected with the hotel, when I was still working in the hotel, what we do is we assign a person for soups. So he will do all the soup service. And then there is a person in charge for appetizer. So he will take charge of the appetizer because remember, the wait staff will do the garnishing and the presentation. So if you assign so many courses to one wait staff, he might get confused. So we assign one person per dish to do all, well, not really all. Let's say there is 100, okay, 100 guests in a particular gathering. So we will assign one wait staff per course or per dish. But if it goes beyond 500, if it goes beyond 100, let's say it reaches now 1,000, so per dish, we will assign probably around, let's say 10. So these 10 wait staff will focus on serving soup per table. Okay, so we will divide the table up. Let's say Jess will be for tables 1 up to 5. So his primary responsibility is to serve soup for the guests in tables 1 to 5. Okay, so on and so forth. It's quick as compared to American service, because American service, again, this is good for let's say small gatherings. But we can actually do plated service. We can actually do plated service in huge gatherings. But then again, you need a lot of people, okay? Because the wait staff can only carry as much as he can only do so much. He cannot carry all the dishes in one setting. okay, or all at once. He cannot do that. So the wait staff can only do so much. So you need more manpower, okay? So that is Russian service. Now, the setup of the Russian service is pretty much the same with the rules that I've shared with you for the American service, only that they differ in the placement. Take a look at this one. Here. In Russian service, so it's all the same. You set up the tableware or the cutlery uh, in the right side and left side. And then what makes it different is that here is the most interesting part. This is now what distinguishes the setup of Russian service to the setup of American service, because in the Russian service, you put all the plates together, okay? We begin with we have the underliner plate, okay, the biggest one. In American service, you can only see one plate in the table, right? That is the, what do you call that? The underliner plate or the show plate. But in the Russian service, you see all of the plates together. If you have 5 courses, let's say you have appetizer, soup, salad, main dish, and dessert. Well, dessert is not included, as always. It will be served separately. So you have 4. All of these 4 plates will be displayed, okay, on top of the show plate or the dinner plate. So you can see there, we arrange it, no? We invert the arrangement. So we begin with, so you have there the show plate, and then you have the dinner plate for your main course, and then you have the salad plate, and then you have the appetizer plate, and then on top of that will be the soup plate. So you can see all of the plates all at once, unlike American service. And this is so beautiful to look at. I mean, it's very elaborate to look at, especially if you are using gold-plated or silver-plated plates and other tableware, okay? A simple plate, a plain colored plate, usually white, okay, has no place in the Russian service. Remember that, okay? The tablewares or the tableware used in Russian service should be elaborate. It should be gold-plated, silver-plated. In some other places, the tableware is encrusted with Swarovski crystals. That's how elaborate Russian service is. Okay, the table is set to shine and sparkle. Okay. Now, can you recall, or did you notice a restaurant here in Cebu that is actually using the Russian service? You may turn on your microphones now. Hello, everyone. Yes. Were you able to notice or observe a particular restaurant in Cebu that uses Russian service? What about you, Jess? Have you encountered a restaurant here in Cebu that is actually using Russian service? Who among you? It's very difficult. It's very difficult to think of, right? Because that's not really common here in Cebu. Okay, it's common in
Yes.
Russian survey. In Olympic back then, when I was still in middle school, we do that, but only for special occasions. If the guest would really request it, okay, and of course, if they can pay that much. Uh, because again, Russians. Okay, you may turn off your microphone now. Okay. If they can pay that much, as I have said. So, yeah, we do that before, but as the need arises, or uh, when the guests request it, so that's when we do Russian service. But then again, if you want to work in a cruise ship before, in a cruise ship, uh, this is a common thing in cruise ships. Okay, so let's go back to the setup of the Russian service. Uh, I have talked about the plates already. Now notice the placements or the arrangement of the glasswares. Okay, so you can see we begin with the water goblet and then they stand in the same line. Okay, they are positioned on the same line. Unlike American service is somewhat like you are following a triangle format for water goblet, red wine, white wine. So it's like Bermuda Triangle, which is also located in the American continent. But in Russian service, the arrangement of the glasses follow or follows straight path or straight line, beginning with the water goblet, and then you have the champagne flute, you have the red wine glass, the white wine glass, and the cordial or the sherry glass. Okay, question. Why there are so many glasses in the Russian service? Answer. Because in Russian service, wine pairing is of utmost importance. Okay? When you say wine pairing, let's say an appetizer is paired with this particular type of beverage. Okay? The main dish is also paired with a particular type of beverage. So let's say if the main dish is uh, uh, can you give me a good dish? Let's say
Main
beef steak. Let's say beef
steak,
steak. Uh,
steak, so red wine.
yeah. As a general rule, if it's red meat, it should be red wine. But that is very basic. We don't do that as hospitality management professionals. As hospitality management professional, you should be able to identify what goes best with beef steak. You do not just say red wine, although you are correct, Zeri, it's red wine. But the question is, what kind or what particular red wine is best paired with beef steak? Okay, the answer might be a Pinot Noir, right? So you pair it with Pinot Noir. Uh, and then your dessert, yeah, the dessert is also paired with a certain beverage. But mostly for desserts, you pair that with,
Coffee and tea.
I'm sorry, Christian?
Coffee and tea.
Oh yeah, coffee and tea. Yeah, that will do. Uh, so that's the answer why there are so many glasses in Russian service. Okay, because wine pairing is of utmost importance in Russian service. Okay. Now to elaborate further, the sequence of service in the Russian service, I'd like to show you. I'd like to share with you video presentation showing, of course, the sequence of the Russian service. Take a look at this one. All right, so moving on to our third. We are now on the third one, the third type of restaurant service, which is, of course, the English service. Now, if the Russian service originated in the royal Russian household, English service, as the name suggests, originated in the British royal household. Yes, the grandmother of our Princess Jasmine here. By the way, segue, who is the reigning monarch in Great Britain right now? You may turn on your microphones.
Prince Charles.
I'm talking about the monarch. The monarch. When you say the monarch, the ultimate,
Bawa na sila.
the reigning monarch of Great Britain right now is Queen Elizabeth II. Okay, her husband is
The second.
Yeah, her husband is Prince Philip. You need to know this. Who knows? You will be working in Buckingham Palace soon. Her husband is... Yes, you are raising your hand. Sweet. Go ahead, sweet. Oh.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kana about sa Russian service ba?
I'm sorry?
Kay, di ba sa babaw sa mga plate kay ang soup, kinababuan? Tapos ang unang i-serve kay appetizer.
No. The soup.
The soup.
Yeah.
Soup.
Because it's very awkward.
Okay, sir.
It's very awkward to take a look at, no? Awkward man kayo nga soup plate. Patungan nimo og kanang lain nga plato. Like, let's say, appetizer, a plate for appetizer, di ba? Lain sa kaayo no nga murag na ay
Yes.
murag na ay ricer, di ba? So dapat mag-una yun.
So okay.
Yeah.
So okay ra nga dili magsunod na ang appetizer ug soup. Okay, sir.
Actually, especially in cruise ships, ang unahon man gyud og serve ang soup. Okay? Why? Because the rocking and rolling motion of the ship, dapat dalion gyud na nato og serve ang soup. Kaya kung ato nang ilugay-dugay, pagka sa bound, mga yabo na diha ang soup. Okay? So that's why we prioritize serving the soup. Okay? But in this is now the variation of service. In cruise ships, usually we serve soup first. Land-based, mauna nga magsugod ta og appetizer. Okay? Appetizer.
Appetizer.
Yeah, because that is, that the purpose of appetizer is to boost our appetite. Okay? And it is served uh, in a very small portion. You don't serve too many appetizers. Kaya nga naman, mabusog na ang imong guest. Diba?
Bites.
The common misconception of everyone, especially those who are not taking up HRM. They cook appetizer and then they eat so much of the appetizer to the point that they will no longer eat the main dish because they are already full. The stomach is already full. So you serve only a small portion of appetizer that is just,
Yes.
to tickle your palate, to excite your taste buds. Okay? And then after that, that's when the salad comes in. Okay? Salad, so that, of course, you will have your dose of healthy food. Okay? Because most of the salads are made of greens. And then after that, that will be your soup. The purpose of soup now is to cleanse your palate. Okay? The palate was excited, no? When you took the appetizer. To calm down your taste buds, that's why you need to take soup. Because the soup is now in preparation for the main dish. Because you don't want your taste buds to be confused when you take the main dish, because it's main dish. It's the highlight of the meal. Okay? It's the most delicious of the meal. Okay, so or the most delicious component of the meal. So you have to cleanse your palate and take the main dish. Now going back to your question, kung mag-una ka, mga mag-una ang soup plate, because usually in Russian service, we serve first the soup. Okay?
Soup.
Yeah. But when you talk about American service, it should always be the appetizer or the starter first. You don't need to worry so much because it's plated. So you do not set up plates, right? Did I answer your question, sweet?
Okay, sir.
Okay, you may mute.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go back now. English service. Now, this originated in the Royal British household. By the way, going back, kay bas hindi ay no nga makatrabaho mo sa Buckingham Palace pohon. The reigning monarch is Queen Elizabeth II. Her husband is Prince Philip. And then they have 4 children. 4 ba? Yeah. Prince Charles, who is married to Diana, the Princess of Wales. We have Princess Anne, Prince Andrew, and Prince Edward. Okay, so 4. Let's go back to Prince Charles. So Prince Charles is married to Diana, and they have 2 beautiful sons, Prince Harry and Prince William. Prince William is married to Catherine Middleton, and they have 3 children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. Prince Harry is married to Meghan Markle. The 2 of them have a beautiful son. He is Archie Harrison Mountbatten. Okay. Anyway, going back to our topic, so English service. Now, English service, in terms of setup, is pretty much the same with Russian service. Don't get confused. In terms of table setup, what you will see in the table setup of the English service is pretty much the same with the Russian service. They will only vary in the arrangement of the glasses. Other than that, they are all the same. Okay? The major difference of English service as compared to American service and Russian service lies in the service itself. Okay? Because English service is something you don't want to do when you decide to open a restaurant business, because this is very elaborate. It is called the butler service. The ratio is, brace yourself, 1:1. Okay? If you open up a restaurant business and then you decide that you will use English service, all I can say is good luck, because the ratio of the wait staff and the guest is 1:1, because it's a butler service. Okay? Now here's the exciting thing. In English service, you sit in one long table, okay, and the host is at the other end of the or the very front of everyone, okay. The most interesting rule in English service is this: no one should start eating if the host is not yet eating. So if I am the host, okay, the butler will serve first, let's say appetizer to me, okay, and then I will wait for all butlers to serve all of my guests. They are not allowed to eat. I should be eating first. Now, when I start eating, that's when my guests can start eating. Okay, now, when I am done eating, the moment I put down my spoon or my fork for that matter, when the butler dishes out my plate, automatically all the rest of the butlers will dish out the plates, even if you are not yet done eating. Okay, that's the very interesting rule of English service, because um, uh, again, when the host is done eating and the butler is now dishing out, they should dish out altogether. Okay? Sir, what if I am not yet done eating and then the soup is very tasteful, the soup is very delicious, and I'm facing the queen? And of course, I have to be pabebe because I'm with the queen. I have to be laishu. Uh, you have to be laishu in a very graceful manner. You have to observe the pacing of the queen. If the queen is eating fast, then you have to eat fast as well, because when she's done, that particular meal or that particular course is done. Then they will serve the next, so on and so forth. Okay? Um, English service, ladies and gentlemen, is very traditional, very medieval, so to speak. And here in the Philippines, I have not seen a restaurant or a hotel that actually uses English service, because this is very traditional. And this is done mostly in the British royal household and its Commonwealth. Okay, Commonwealth nations like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, what else? Gibraltar, India, Singapore. These countries are colonies of Great Britain or part of the British Commonwealth. So when those countries host state visits, then they will use English service. Okay? What else? So again, in terms of the setup, it's pretty much the same. They will only differ in the arrangement of glasses. But in terms of service, the golden rule is you should not start eating if the host is not yet eating. And when the host is done eating a particular dish or a particular course, you should be done as well. Because whether you like it or not, the butler will dish it out. Okay? Ratio is 1:1. One guest, one butler. That's how extravagant it is. Okay? As you can see in the photo. Okay, now I'd like to show to you a clip from the movie Victoria and Abdul. If you are interested, you can actually watch the full length of this movie, but I cannot show that here because it's probably almost 2 hours long. So I'm going to show you a clip showing the banquet scene of the movie Victoria and Abdul. This is a classic example of English service. Now take a look at this video.
Gracias a Dios. La sopa, Su Majestad.
¿No había terminado? Me temo que deberán darse prisa. Los retiran en cuanto ella termina.
Uno menos, quedan seis.
All right, so in terms of the setup, as you can see, this is pretty much the same with Russian service. The arrangement of the glasswares is the only thing that changed. If the Russian service follows a straight, the arrangement of the glasses in Russian service follows a straight line, in English, it's slanting, and then there's the champagne flute. So it's like Y. You know? It's like letter Y. Okay. So that is now the table setup for English service. And of course, we move on to our last restaurant service, which is, of course, another very extravagant, setup and service, which is of course, the French service. Okay. For a moment here. Now, French service is a very special kind of service. Okay. Why? This is a step down to, let's say, yeah, I'm using the word step down because in English service, it's very traditional. The ratio is 1:1. Okay. In the French service, not necessarily 1:1, but 1 table is to 3 staff. Okay, 1 table is to 3 staff. So if there are 5 people in 1 table, so you save salaries for 2 people. Okay, because you only need 3. Now again, this is a very special kind of service. The wait staff are called chef de rang or demi-chef de rang. Okay, and they will prepare the food right in front of the guest. So this is now a step up of your samgyeopsal. No. I'm just kidding. Samgyeopsal is Korean, okay? But in the Western culture, particularly in France, they call it the French service. So this is how it looks like. Let's say, for example, we are all guests, okay? When we are now seated in 1 table. Now, there will be 3 staff that will approach us. The chef de rang, the demi-chef de rang, and the sommelier. Okay. Chef de rang is the one who prepares the food right in front of us. Demi-chef de rang is the personnel assigned to serve what the chef de rang prepared. And the sommelier, of course, you know this, sommelier is the wine expert. Each and every dish served to us, he is knowledgeable what wine is best paired with that particular dish. Okay? Now, so there are 3 people that will serve us. Again, the chef de rang, the demi-chef de rang, and the sommelier. Now, in the American service, the food is prepared and plated in the kitchen. The wait staff will serve it to the guest. In Russian service, the food is prepared in the kitchen, but the wait staff will serve it and will do the plating right in front of the guest. Okay? In English service, it's 1:1. It's a step up to the American service. It's a step up to the plated service. Everything is plated, and you have one guest is to one butler. Now, in the French service, the food is prepared right in front of you. Okay? You have your own chef, you have your own wait staff, you have your own sommelier, and they will be standing right in front of you. The chef will prepare the food using a very special cart, which we call a guéridon. Okay? Guéridon. What is a guéridon? Guéridon it's like a portable gas stove. Okay? In layman's term, it's a portable gas stove. It's like a cart, and there's source of fuel in there, and then there's burner at the top of it. But of course, in hospitality management, in French service, we don't call it portable gas stove. Okay, we call it guéridon because guéridon is very elaborate. It's made out of gold. It's gold plated, and you know it resembles to a royal throne, so to speak. there are a lot of elaborate, carvings which are gold plated. Okay, that's how the guéridon looks like. Anyway, you will see what a guéridon looks like in the video that I will present to you later on. Now, so again, there is a special cart which we call the guéridon, and then that is where all of the food will be placed. This is now the mini kitchen. Okay, so we bring the kitchen right in front of the guest. That is the idea or the concept of the guéridon. And then the chef or the chef de rang will prepare the food, will do the garnishing, will do the flambe, and all of those exciting methods of cooking. And then after that, the demi-chef de rang or the wait staff will get what the chef de rang prepared and then serve it to the guest. And then the sommelier will approach and will serve wines. By the way, a sommelier is a wine expert. Okay, he is very knowledgeable with wines, the origins of wines, and what is it best paired with. In hospitality management, we do not just say red wine. We do not just say white wine. We do not just say champagne. Okay, we always ask, what type of red wine is that? Diba? For normal people, say red wine, most likely they will say Novellino. But in hospitality management, no. Okay, we don't say Novellino because Novellino is a brand. We have to be knowledgeable about the variety of wine. There are so many. You have Bordeaux, you have Pinot Noir, you have Chardonnay, you have Sauvignon Blanc, you have Beaujolais, okay, and so many others, okay. That is now the work of the sommelier, okay. Wine historian, wine expert. See how elaborate French service is, okay. Now, moving on, restaurants that offer French service are very fancy and very expensive considering the ratio of the servers to the guest. Here in the Philippines, I was able to observe one hotel which is practicing this one, but that was a long time ago. I'm not sure if they are still practicing that today. It's Manila Hotel, okay? But I do not know now because French service is not really common here in the Philippines because, again, it's not really practical when we talk about business. It's very expensive and not a lot of people are interested with that here in the Philippines. But when you go to the most expensive places in the world, like when you go to Monaco, okay, when you go to the upscale regions of France, and other parts of European continent, you can see French service in there. Especially when you get inside a Ritz-Carlton property. Okay, Ritz-Carlton is a very well-known brand, hotel brand in the world. Okay, and it's very old. It's they are most of the Ritz-Carlton properties all over the world are actually practicing or using French service in their in some of the restaurants. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about the table setup of the French service. Now, in terms of the table setup, it's pretty much the same with the rest of the restaurant service that we have talked about, only that it differs in the arrangement. So if you can observe, the table arrangement or the placement of tableware is pretty much the same for all four restaurant service, all four types of restaurant service. More often, they only differ in the arrangement of glasses. So in French service, if you observe, the glasses are located right after your dessert spoon and dessert fork. Okay? For the rest of the types of restaurant service, the glasses are located right after the cutlery in the right side, correct? Right after your fish, right after your fish knife, your soup spoon, and so on. That's when you start setting up the glasses. But for French service, it's right after the dessert spoon and dessert fork. Okay? Now, question. Sir, in French service, is it plated or same with Russian service? The answer is French service is pretty much the same in terms of arrangement, table setup. It's pretty much the same with the Russian service. In French service, you set up the plates all together. Pretty much the same with the Russian service. Because the chef de rang again will prepare the food. After that, it will be served individually by the demi-chef de rang. Okay? So that is French service. Okay, now, I'd like to show you a video about French service. This video is courtesy of, I got it from YouTube, of course, but I'd like to acknowledge that this is from Ritz-Carlton. Okay, so take a look at this video.
The Ritz dining room is one of the bastions of classic French food, and Chef John Williams is one of Escoffier's most ardent fans.
John? Michel? Good to see you. Good to Simon, see you. I won't shake your hand. You're hard at work here. Smashing.
What does Escoffier mean to you?
He's the best chef in the world, first and foremost. But it's about his cooking, his heritage of France. It's about the ingredients. It's about the complexity of the sauces. It was the style, the panache of how they actually cooked.
Canard à la presse is a classic French dish which Escoffier brought to London. It's prepared partly at tableside for the entertainment of the diners.
So the supremes are taken off, or the breasts are taken off, the legs go back to the kitchen to crisp up, exactly. And then the carcass gets chopped up, and then you put them in this contraption here.
Yeah, this is my pet model call it whatever you like, but it's a contraption based on a wine press. He would bring his ducks from Rouen, the very, very best in France at the time. So, a touch of cognac and a touch of port, and then it's a very, very simple pressing action. It's very much a piece of equipment Escoffier loved to use because of the theatre that it created. And as we press, it's just starting to come out there now. There we go. Lovely. So there's quite a bit of juice there.
Rich sauces with complex flavours built around intense reductions are a key feature of Escoffier's culinary style. But so too were dramatic elements like flambeing. And there's another absolute icon of French food that we owe to Escoffier.
Let me tell you a lovely story about Escoffier. He tried to get the English, who were very conservative at the time, to eat all kinds of things, but frog's legs was this thing he was very afraid that they would never touch, and they would turn their nose up. So one evening at a very, very grand banquet, he actually put on the menu, nymph salaora. And of course, everybody got up and said, this is one of the finest banquets ever. The first course was fantastic. What was it? And of course, nobody knew. So next day, the reporters went round to his office and said, tell us, this was so fantastic. He said, well, it was frog's legs, but you wouldn't have eaten them anyway, so I decided to call them nymphs.
For me, John, this style of food is still very relevant to today's palate.
Certainly. There are the complex dishes. There are the light dishes. There are the combinations that you actually get surprised with. And if we just look forward to Heston, who is probably one of the most complex cooks going and very, very forward-thinking, he's very much out of the same mold. He still loves theatre. He still loves his complexities. He loves his simplicity, but he loves food. And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
It looks magical. I can't wait to dive in.
Come on, let's go.
Give me a fork. Can't wait. Gosh, look at this. Oh, Simon, a good job with the sauce there.
Thank you, sir.
Stunning.
That is good.
So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the French service. You may mute now your microphones. Okay. So far, do you have any questions? So we have talked about 4 main types of restaurant service. You have the American service, the Russian service, the English service, and of course, the French service. Now I am opening the floor for questions. If you will not ask questions, I will be asking questions to you. Yes, sweet. Do you have a question? You're raising your hand. Questions?
Wala na, sir.
Okay, everything is clear so far?
Yes.
Okay, very good. What about Ninia? Do you have a question, darling?
Wala, sir.
Okay. Are you sure about that? Everything is clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good.
Yes, sir.
Dawn,
Yes, sir.
you have a question?
None so far, sir.
Okay. Zeri? What about Jess?
Wala. Pero kung sir, if wala tayo Gary doon, pwede man mo gamit to butane, di ba?
Kabuya. Bayot, pabyot tayo Andres Pinas, bayot.
Well, we can always improvise.
Innovation tayo ba yun?
We can always improvise. All right. Or since it is French service also comes. Okay, this is now the important. This is now one of the most important thing that you have to learn. these services that we are talking about also has a direct impact in the way we brand our restaurant, in the way we project the image of our restaurant. So if you are using French service, automatically you are upscale. You do not use French service in a carinderia. Okay? You do not use French service in small-scale restaurants.
Tapos nabuha day, sir.
This is extra. But let's say for example, no, let's say for example, we have a restaurant that uses French service, and then for whatever reasons, the Geredon did not work. So we have to be resourceful. Okay, we have to be resourceful. We can use butane, but we have to make sure that the butane is presentable. Okay, it's presentable and
Gold nga butane, sir.
yeah, something like that. Okay, so we have to prepare that ahead of time. We can use butane, but you have to make sure that the butane is beautiful. Okay, it's in our term, it's laishu. Okay, we do not use the normal butane, and by normal I mean the usual butane that we see in our household. It should be, gold plated as much as possible. Yeah, but the question is valid. But the question is valid, okay? Because not all the time, di ba, our equipment will work. So how will we deal with that? Yeah, butane will do. We'll make sure it's presentable. Okay, Jess?
Magtos lubuha dos Jess, sir.
Uy, French service na.
You can always whatever dish, for as long as you make it upscale. You can use tuslubua and then make it gourmet. When you say gourmet,
Tsaka malang server dito.
when you say gourmet is a fine food. Yeah, it may be tuslubua, but you can make it upscale. And that's why we are here. That's why there is a hospitality management program. We make everything upscale. And we serve only the best and the finest people. Well, not really only, but most of the time. That's why we are getting inside their minds. How do we serve them in a world-class approach? Okay, so since you don't have any questions, and now I have an activity for you. Okay, so we have two activities. We have the synchronous activity and we have the asynchronous activity. Don't be confused with the terms. When you say synchronous, this is guided. So you do it right now while I am with you. Okay? When you say asynchronous, I'm making it very simple for you to understand. Asynchronous is an activity which is offline. Okay? It doesn't have to be. You will receive clear guidance from me, but you can do it at your own pace, at your own time. Okay, so we have two activities. For our synchronous activity this session, now in 5 minutes, I would like you to illustrate the proper placement of tableware in the Russian or American service. You select only one. Okay. Now, to make sure that you are not plainly copying the handouts that I have posted in our Google class, I am setting the menu in a 5-course meal. So there are 5 courses. So what are these courses? So you have appetizer, soup, salad, main dish, dessert. 5 dishes. Okay? Now, you have to illustrate in consideration of the fact that it is a 5-course meal with 3 beverages of your choice. It could be wine, it could be juice, it could be water, it could be coffee, tea, whatever. Okay? It should be 5 minutes only. Okay? After 5 minutes, you present your output to me while I am listening to you, okay? And then along the way, I might be asking questions to you, okay? Are the instructions clear? Clear? Okay, now I'm giving you 5 minutes to illustrate either American service or Russian service, but take note, it should be a 5-course meal with 3 beverages, okay? Go. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Explain to me your illustration.
My illustration is somewhat looks like the French service. I have here a display plate. Above it is a table napkin.
Are
Then
you telling me
I have,
that it's a French service, but it's inspired by the setup in Russian service? Because it looks like, can I see it again?
oh, wala na.
Okay, go ahead, Jess.
Stop.
Yeah, go ahead.
Then beside my display plates are my cutleries. Starting with the soup spoon, then after which is the salad knife, and together with a salad fork. Next is the appetizer knife, then the appetizer fork, then the what call this the dinner spoon, then the dinner fork. Above the forks, I have here my bread plate together with the bread knife. Then in the right side of my illustration, I also have here the glasswares. The glasswares are specifically I've putted water goblet, red wine glasses, a red wine glass, then white wine glass. Then above my display plate, I have my dessert spoon and my dessert fork.
Mm-hmm. What about your bread and butter plate?
Here, sir.
Okay.
Above my spoon.
All right. Very good, Jess. Okay. Let's give Jess a warm round of applause. Virtual round of applause. Very good. Okay. Now, before we end our session, I would like to announce this assignment. This assignment is also our asynchronous activity, okay? Here it goes. In the comfort of your home, demonstrate the proper table setup of all the 4 types of restaurant service. So you have to set up American, Russian, English, and French. Okay. Now, I understand the challenge is you do not have appropriate glasses, cutlery, or tableware for that matter, correct? You have to be resourceful. You don't have to spend much. You can use whatever glass, you can use whatever plate you have in your home. Just label it. You get a piece of paper. If you don't have regular glass, but you have other types of glasses in your home, so you get that glass and put a little red wine glass, put it there. Okay. So if you don't have the correct tableware, you may use a substitute and label it accordingly. So set up. Okay. After that, you have to take a photo of each. Okay, take a photo of each and then upload it in our Google Classroom. I have also posted in there the instructions so that you can comment or you can submit the photos of your table setup. Remember, it should be 4. Okay. Deadline will be on June 1, 2020 until 12 noon only. Okay. Do you have any questions with regards to the instruction of your assignment?
And so far,
Okay.
None so far, sir.
Okay, very good. Now, before we end our session, I'd like to do a recap of our objectives. In the beginning of this session, these are the objectives that we have set. Compare and contrast the four main types of restaurant service. Can you now compare and contrast what is what is Russian service, American, English, French? Can you now see the lines of intersection and the differences among all of them? Hello?
Yes, sir.
What about
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So you see, there is a line of intersection between all of them, and there are also outstanding differences, correct? Now,
Yes, sir.
identify the practical application of the four main types of restaurant service. In our discussion, I said that not all types of service, there is no one type of service that will work uh, all the time. That would actually depend. Okay, for American service, plated, it's common here in the Philippines. It's common in the it's common. Okay, in the restaurants all throughout the world. In Russian, it's very common in cruise ships and banquets. In English, this is something that you will not see in or you will not observe in a restaurant because this only happens in state visits of countries like Great Britain and its Commonwealth. Okay. And this is very traditional. So this is not really for commercial use or commercial use, so to speak, or commercial application, so to speak. And then you have demonstrate the proper, illustrate the proper placement of tableware in Russian service. So in our activity, I asked you to demonstrate who demonstrated or who presented his illustration. And then finally, demonstrate the proper table of the four types of restaurant service. This is now your assignment. Check that. Okay. Any more questions before we call it a day?
None, sir.
Okay. Now, one last thing. Before we go offline, I'd like to share with you something inspirational. This video is already familiar to you. You have seen this a lot of times already, but I would show it to you for you to be reminded, for you to renew your, your flair, or your commitment in delivering world-class hospitality service. So I'd like to show you a video. This is actually a music video which is entitled Hail HM, Hail UC. This is made by Section 1. I could remember that during our marketing video contest. Okay, take a look at this video.
In the Queen City of the South, we send this one in heart. Hospitality industry is booming in the South. We can cook, we can serve, we can make you satisfied. Morally upright professionals meeting all demands. We are hospitality management. Our dreams can reach the sky. Skilled in many ways, globally competitive. We will make a future clear. We will face it with no fear. Hail HM, hail UC. Hospitality management. In the Queen City hospitality management.